I've just jumped off a fascinating chat with today's guest. His name is Ben Crothers. And as I share in this conversation, we actually met at the AMPEAK conference. That's an asset management conference in Sydney early this year. And it was really great because we were very lucky that we had Ben in the session in the workshop, and he was graphically recording what we covered. And then after that, got chatting, and the chat was so good that I'm like, oh, I have to bring Ben onto the show. Now, Ben has been a facilitator for over 15 years and a designer for longer than that. He's helped teams from a broad range of organisations and domains, from Leukaemia Foundation to the Parliament of Australia, from Atlassian to Westpac, to solve problems, formulate strategy, and work better together. In this conversation, Ben and I riff on his background in design and how he features that today in his work, and how really all of us as facilitators are actually designers too. We riff on the boldness, or I guess courage, it takes to try something a little bit different at work that isn't in the script. So how we can get the confidence to try something new, to even kick off a workshop or end a workshop, or even the time that we set our meetings for. He shares the importance of visuals at work and how he can tell whether someone is a more seasoned professional speaker or not based on the first 5 sentences of their speech or session. Ben also shares the importance of gear changes in workshops when you move to different thinking styles. He has a cool activity called the spam can, which he shares in this episode. Now, a big part of how Ben works has to do with incorporating visuals and visualization. This helps to bring ideas to life and to help everyone listen better and make better connections throughout complex discussions. Ben is currently the principal facilitator at Bright Pilots, his own facilitation consultancy, and the author of 3 books, including Presto Sketching, Simple Drawing for Brilliant Product Thinking and Design. Check out his work at bencrothers.com or brightpilots.com. Now, onto the show. I'm delighted to welcome onto the First Time Facilitator podcast, Ben Crothers. Ben, it's good to chat to you again.
Hi, Leanne. Yeah, great to be here. Thanks so much for having me on, and great to chat to you again as well.
Yeah, it's funny because usually my first chat with people on this podcast is a virtual chat, but our first chat was in person. Was it last month? And you were sketchnoting, and it was just wonderful to see you work there. And now you do more than that. You do a ton of different things. Can you share with listeners a bit about your backstory, maybe some pivots or watershed moments that led you to the work that you do today?
Yeah, thank you. And that's right. That we did meet at a conference, didn't we? And I've kind of been fanning on you, Leanne, for a while. Like, I've been listening to this podcast for a while, and then boom, there you were, like leading a session. So that was great. It was great meeting you in person. Yeah, I guess I come from a design background. I've been designer for well over 20 years, and I guess I've always had that spirit of design that. Design wants a better world. Design wants things to work better and wants people to work together better and all of that kind of nice stuff. And if you know a designer, or if you are a designer, if you're listening or watching, well, then you know that feeling, right? Like, you just want things to be better. And so often, we work, particularly these days, in multidisciplinary teams. So much of our work doesn't feel like the design, but the communication of the design and the critique and the iteration. And what I found for me was I kind of got into facilitation through design, because I found that all of the design critique sessions that I was in, like, Leanne, quite frankly, they sucked. They were horrible. They really were. And I thought, like, this can't be right. And so then I thought, well, what if I redesign how we do design critique? And it wasn't hard, but it was just being a bit more intentional about how the meeting ran. And before I knew it, I guess I was facilitating without really knowing I was facilitating. I just sort of, I think I stumbled into the role. And then once I did that, I kind of became famous internally for running a better meeting. And then for a while there, like in various places that I worked, it's like, hey, if you have a gnarly problem or a gnarly meeting, break glass and remove Ben and Ben to run the meeting. And I remember I used to work at Atlassian, like, this is years ago when I first started. And kind of, sort of, up until I started facilitating there, they didn't really do any intentional facilitation. And I would come in and run things, and they said, whoa, like, what is this weird sort of voodoo magic that is happening? And I kind of like it, because we're actually getting done what we said we wanted to get done. And I said, yeah, it's called facilitation, and you can learn it. And that's when I started, I think, really leaning into, I think, taking more of a client mindset with how I facilitate. In other words, find out what outcomes do they want and designing meetings and ways of working to suit those outcomes rather than to suit the calendar or to suit the software or to suit how they've always done it. And then when, for the past few years, like just before the pandemic, actually, I went out on my own and now have been doing my own freelance business called Bright Pilots. So much of that is helping design ways of working. And so I'm still a designer. It's just that I design how we gather and how we get work done together.
Wow. And I really like that phrase, design wants a better world. And I think that's really about, like, when I really draw this podcast to a higher level, yeah, it's about workshops, but it's really about creating better moments and creating a better world. I want to ask you that question around when we go to meetings that are unintentional and you use the word like they kind of sucked. And some of this, this podcast was also driven by going to sessions where I'm like, this could be done better. And, it still happens, right? There's still just awful kind of sucky meetings. Not anyone, anyone listening to the show, you're okay. But, but like, what do you think it is? Like, what's the difference? Like, is it just because people are busy? Like, what's going on? Why isn't there intentionality?
Why isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I kind of walked into that one, didn't I? I think, okay, here's my pet theory. I feel like so much of modern work, it just follows this script, and the script is like this daggy, turgid old play that no one really wants to sit there and watch, but we feel like we've got to sit there and watch. Or maybe another way to think about it is, the good old play, Waiting for Godot. And the whole thing is like two characters walk on stage at various times and they just talk about nothing. Why? Because they're waiting for this other character who never shows up. And I guess the pathos is in what happens when nothing is meant to happen. And it's like work is a bit like that. Like it's just a bad script. It's like, you said, hey, ChatGPT, write another version of Waiting for Godot for me. And ChatGPT gives you a script and everyone reads that script. And it's just really boring. And so I think there's so much of what we do in work in general and meetings in particular that I think a lot of people think we have to do it that way. And even when we do want to question it, we feel like, oh, I don't want to be the odd one out.
Yeah.
I don't want to look dumb. And so I'm not going to ask questions. And we keep holding ourselves back. And if only more and more of us just didn't hold ourselves back. And I'm not saying, go in screaming and being nasty about it. It's not that at all, but just ask questions, ask probing questions. And then maybe we can find out to say, hey, maybe we don't have to run the meeting this way. What if rather than you come up with the agenda, what if we all come up with the agenda? Maybe what would happen if we changed our default meeting time from 60 minutes to 50 minutes? Can we try that? And I think the more we do that, the more we find, we can actually drive this bus called work. I think that's got something to do with it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember when I started trying to do different things at my old workplace, there was an element of like definitely nervousness, but also maybe a feeling of rebelliousness, even though I didn't think it was rebellious at all because I was trying to improve an experience, but it was rebellious because I was going against the status quo of how things were usually run. And there's a bit of confidence, like you had to kind of be your own cheerleader and be like, this is okay, I can do this. But it did require that.
Yeah. And I think you've got to acknowledge the weird. Like it's going to be weird. Oh, that's another thing. So many meetings are so boring because they're so predictable.
Yes.
Like we literally know the agenda. We literally know not only the outcomes, but how we're meant to get there. And the more we do that with people, the more people lean out. I mean, I'm not saying a meeting has to be a movie, what's going to happen next? Like what's around the corner? It's not that. But you're right, like it's great to try anything new, but know that it'll be weird the first time and then it'll be welcome. For example, one thing I started doing, this is years ago now, it was back when a place I was working, we were definitely used to lots of online meetings, hybrid meetings, and everyone was slammed with back-to-back meetings. And so whenever anyone came to a meeting I was running, I'd say, right, first 5 minutes, we're going to give each other the gift of 5 minutes silence, catch up on that email, send that thing, read that thing, like whatever is on your mind right now, clear your mind for the first 5 minutes. And the first time I did it. And the first time the people were in meetings where I did it, they always go, oh, what is this weirdness? Like, it's weird. But then it's welcome because, like the energy was so much better. And my meetings then became famous for that because, do what Ben did. Like, let's have first 5 minutes of silence because then we can all catch up. We're not feeling behind the 8 ball once we start a meeting. So yeah, first it'll be weird, then it'll be welcome.
Yeah, I really love that phrase, weird but welcome. And yeah, I remember even sending a meeting request for like 9:07 a.m. People being like weirded out by that. But
yeah, love it.
But yeah, but I love that part too. Like, just like, all right, give people that time because everyone is, like you said, it's calendar Tetris. People are bouncing around from meeting to meeting. No one's actually like focused. We're all worried about what's going on in the world. So it's almost like just the space. And even when you finish a meeting, like I remember finishing meetings early. It's like, we've talked about it. We've got a decision. All right. Well, people feel like compelled to be polite, to just linger around.
That's a funny one. Yes.
Yeah.
It's like trying to end a phone call with your, well-meaning but very talking aunt or something. It's like, well, gotta go, and then they're still talking, and then you're going, well, let's go. yeah, just finish. It's okay.
It's okay. It's okay. Now, I mean, I love your logo and your website. It's just like, you can tell that you have this background in design. Let's talk about visuals and how you incorporate that and why you think it's kind of like a superpower for the work that you do.
For sure. Because I neglected to mention before, yes, I have a background in design, but I also very much have a background in visuals in general and drawing in particular. And drawing has always come easy for me. I'm not going to lie about that. And when I was definitely a product designer, service designer, just part of my process was drawing storyboards. Why? Because I drew lots of comics as a kid, and I was, the one at school that all the corners of my textbooks had little drawings in them. So when you thumb the corner, you'd have like these animated figures of, figures fighting and getting their heads cut off and stuff like that. But yeah, so I used to do a lot of storyboarding. Why? Because it's a great way to bring an idea to life. And I mentioned the design critiques before. I definitely show these storyboards just to set the scene, to set context, and that let people give more accurate feedback. And from that, I found I just had an affinity to be up at the whiteboard drawing while people were talking in a meeting. So it was just very natural for me to visually record. And so that's how I kind of stumbled into this field of graphic facilitation and graphic recording or scribing. So for anyone who's not sure what the difference is, graphic recording is where me, like illustrator, I'm illustrating, I'm not talking, I'm just listening and I'm drawing, like either on the wall or an iPad. So I'm capturing a conversation or a talk at a conference, just like what I was doing at the conference that we were at.
Yeah.
Whereas graphic facilitation is giving people visual structures so that they can have the pen and draw, so that they have a 2D space, like whether physically or digitally, to put their sticky notes, rearrange the sticky notes. Because, Leanne, the magic about the visuals is, it was Dave Allen, author of Getting Things Done, who said, heads are for having ideas, not holding them. And so much of that kind of meetings is a lot of us try to hold it all in our heads. And it's no wonder that we have problems making decisions as groups and reconciling and prioritizing as groups, because we're trying to hold it all in our heads. And the thing is, we don't have to. We can put it out as a structured space on a wall or on an online canvas like Miro, Mural, something like that. We can make it our own, like we can draw on it, we can make new connections between the pieces. And so that we can start to make sense of it all together, both the ideas together and as a group of people together. And that has always energized me so much. And so I love it's simple drawing. It's not artistic drawing, but I love that simple kind of drawing so much that I think in 2017 now, I wrote a book called Presto Sketching, and that's all about simple drawing to help, particularly with product and service design and teams involved in products and services, but honestly, for anyone at work who wants to solve problems better. And I did a follow-on book called Draw in 4, as in 4, And that's for people who, they want to draw better. They want to be able to kind of draw something in their mind quickly on the fly as a simple kind of an icon. And there's, I think, about 100 things to draw to practice. Yeah, all of which is to say, I love bringing visuals into work for sure.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I will put a link to both of those books in the show notes. You've got others as well. I remember asking you, hey, do you have a book? And you're like, yeah, I've got 4 books. It's like, okay. Wow. Right.
3. I got 3.
One on the way?
One on the way. Yeah.
All right.
I'm pregnant with a book. Yeah.
I've got to ask you a question around the whole graphic recording space, because you work with, you go to so many different conferences. I'm sure you're an expert on everything now because you're basically recording all this information and synthesizing it as you draw.
I know a lot to embarrass myself. Yep.
Yeah. Are there certain like presenters or speakers where it's very easy for you to map out? Like you can tell the way that they've communicated makes it very easy for you to visualize and map it out versus something that's a bit more complex and there's like 100 points. Like what are the speeches or sessions where you find there's a lot of simplicity and ease in terms of sketchnoting that? And what do you think they're doing to create that?
Yeah, good question. I can tell in about the first 5 sentences how experienced a speaker is because of the way they structure their talk and the way they kind of introduce their talk. For example, they might say something like, I've got 3 big things to share, or this is my overarching question, or this is the thing I want to leave you with at the end, or some kind of opening gambit like that, some hint at structure. And that tells me that there's going to be a structured way that they talk. And if I know that, I can then budget space on the piece of paper I've got or the screen on the iPad that I've got. And I can try to kind of use up that space according to the structure that they then come out with. Sometimes it's not always like that. There's a lot of speakers at conferences that, they haven't spoken a lot, and that's perfectly fine. And I'll just start. And it has, the other day, someone opened with, I'm going to tell you the journey of how our company is becoming more sustainable. So I thought, oh, this is interesting. So along the bottom, I drew a line kind of trending upward, ready to go, because I'm assuming it's going to go metaphorically upward. And she didn't talk about that at all. And I had this weird line going across the whole chart. So that was awkward. I mean, no one really notices these things except me. But so it's nice having these auditory landmarks, and that helps me structure it. If there's some kind of overall metaphor they're using, like a journey or some sort of metaphor like that, I can do a lot with that. I had another one where the whole talk was about how a team created some kind of document together. It sounds really boring when I say it that way, but a global team, multiple languages, lots of struggles, but they needed to create this new standards document together. So I just drew a big document in the middle with some people basically floating in space with kind of oversized pens and pencils from memory, or I think that just people coming together on a document. And then the things that they were talking about just became points around that major picture. And that was fun. Yeah, but that's honestly, Leanne, that's a big part of the challenge. And part of that, I think, the artistic and design challenge.
Yeah, I really like that, the phrase auditory landmarks. And also giving us a hint, there's a good hint there in terms of how do we open a speech to provide like a container, not only for if you've got a graphic recorder, but for the people in your session. So they can kind of like map, where this might be going as well. I think that's really powerful. Now, yesterday, Ben, you were combining both of the things. I mean, you do a lot of different things, but you had a day of graphic recording and then you came home and did a virtual workshop. A lot of this work that we do is all about our energy. So can you share like how you manage that and your big day yesterday, and now you're on the line reflecting with me?
Yeah. On the energy thing, I'm a big one of just, I can't help but rely on a lot of nervous energy. Like that'll keep me going, and then boom, I crash. So I think I'm still going on that nervous energy right now. So Leanne, after this, I'll probably go back to bed. No. But there's that. But I got to say, one thing that really gives me energy, that fires me up, is being in a room where there's other people have an energy of, I guess, as we said before, wanting to make the world a better place. and that's a great thing about my work. Like as a facilitator and as a graphic recorder, I get to be in so many rooms where so many people want to do better, want the world to be a better place. And the one yesterday, it was an event at the University of Sydney that was all about how do we incorporate more people with lived experience of disability in research, as well as how do we bring in people with lived experience of disability in positions of leadership when people with disabilities need to be accommodated and designed for and things like that. And it was just wonderful. It was incredible. I mean, I could have had like 1 hour of sleep the night before, but boom, I was on. It was so interesting. And yeah, as I said, like the energy in the room. So that's kind of one thing. It doesn't always happen that way. Like I've had to draw for some really dry, esoteric content. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, how am I going to get through this? Yeah. So it's good thinking about the energy. I hadn't thought of that. But otherwise, I think I used to stress out a lot. I used to, I think, put too much pressure on myself to do all the things, to try to be perfect, whether it was the drawing or the facilitation or both. And yeah, like I was constantly putting this pressure on myself, and that in itself is fatiguing, let alone the work that you're trying to do. And I think over the past few years, I've just learned to kind of just loosen up and relax a bit more and, just give more power over to other people. And that's very important in facilitation. It's vital, I think, that as facilitators, we don't own the outcome. The people in the room do. That's not on me. It's certainly on me to help them as much as I can get there. I can show them the doors, but they've got to open them. I can create a path or make them create a path, but they're the ones who have to go down the path, kind of thing. And so yesterday was weird, where I had all the things happen in the one day. So there was the graphic recording. And as you said, I then had to whisk myself home and then do a 90-minute online masterclass in how to facilitate better alignment and decision-making. And I guess, and even that one, I wanted to prep in the Uber on the way home, but the Uber driver just wouldn't stop talking.
Oh, no.
Like, oh my goodness, I need to prep. And
Stop.
so, and again, I just had to rest and think, it's okay. I've done this before. I don't have to prep for 5 hours. It'll be all right, and the right stuff will come out. And the way I structure it, it's very interactive with lots of discussion. And I tend to kind of flex and change where people's challenges and questions come from anyway. But I certainly still needed a glass of red wine after both of those sessions.
Yeah, that's a massive day, because you've got to kind of like compartmentalize and just deal with what's in front of you, and then go, right, recording's over now, headspace. It's funny, actually, in Asia, when they've got Grab over there instead of Uber, and on Grab, you actually can nominate whether you want to talk to the person or not.
Really?
Yeah. So maybe that's but I mean, that's lovely. Like, that's lovely. The Uber driver wanted to have a chat.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, sometimes like it really is this burning thing I got to get done. Like I'm the kind of guy who'll say, oh, do you mind? I need to work away on my laptop. And of course they say, yeah, sure, no problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just got sucked into the conversation.
Oh, it must have been good. Hey,
Yeah.
I follow this guy, Chris Do, from the future. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he talks about, he's got a design background. He talks about the 2-word personal brand. I remember when we were chatting in Sydney, you called yourself the corporate anthropologist. And that really, like, those 2 words really stood out for me. And I wanted to share, like, I was curious about digging into that and going, why did you say that? Like, and what is going on behind corporate? Like, just anthropologize that conversation.
And isn't it funny? Like, I'd never put those 2 words together before. But yeah, when we were talking, you're right. I just thought, like I'm a corporate anthropologist. And for me, I guess what that meant or means is I am endlessly fascinated by people's behavior at work and the way that we say things, we do things at work that we would never do elsewhere. Like the way we talk is so weird at work. And you know yourself, like say you're at a barbecue on a weekend and you ask someone about work, and it happens at 2 levels. Like the first level is like, just pushing emails around, mate, and then you dig in a bit more. You say, well, I'm actually, interested in supply chain dynamics or whatever their job is. And then suddenly they shift, it's like this Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde thing. Suddenly they just become this different person in the way they speak. So I find the behavior of people fascinating, and I'm constantly dipping into resources about cognitive bias, neurochemistry, and the way that, like this weird sort of meat bag that we have with this soup of hormones and neurocorticoids going on, it can do any work at all. By ourselves, let alone in groups, like that is fascinating. And so, do I have any qualification in anthropology? No. But I guess I just apply that sort of science toolkit at work and then apply that to how I facilitate. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. I mean, it is interesting because even there was a really great video out the other week. I think I shared it in my mail out recently about, why is LinkedIn, case study on why LinkedIn is so weird. And it's the same thing. It's like, and even I play the game, like I write something on there and I think, would I actually ever say that? Would I use those words? Would I use that language?
Yeah.
And you see, it's just a cesspool of like just rubbish and weird language and people talking about authenticity, but yet not being real.
Yeah. Everyone's thrilled on LinkedIn all the time. Like I'm thrilled
humbled
to be
and grateful.
Humbled. Yeah. But no one says these words out loud. It's so funny.
No, yeah. I would never say I'm so humbled by this. Like it's so hashtag grateful. Like
yeah. We should do like our own little personal experiments. Like I'm going to an office opening tonight, and maybe I should speak in LinkedIn speak. How are you, Ben? Oh, I'm thrilled to be doing this. Oh, what have you been working on? Well, I'm hashtag humbled to have done this project. And people
I'm delighted to share my, honestly, I don't know if this exists, but I'd love to get like a hashtag blessed or hashtag humbled shirt and just wear these on Zoom calls or just on my Zoom video, LinkedIn videos. Cause it's just, this is the problem. I think there's just a disconnect and there's a need to be professional, but I think professional, yes, but connecting at the same time, it's like, I don't know. It's a bit.
And what even is professional? Is it prompt? Is it accurate? Is it courteous? Is it all of those things? I mean, I would hope so, but yeah. It's this funny kind of costume, I think, that we put on, back to that kind of analogy of place. Oh, and, speaking of costumes, I think, a lot of us, for a bunch of different reasons, wear masks at work. And sometimes we have to.
Yeah.
In places where, whether it's just mildly psychologically unsafe or just downright toxic. I think like we have to put on the armor, we have to have masks. And I think that's a big thing as well. And for anyone watching and listening, I certainly would not, I'm not belittling any of this sort of behavior at all. I think, we all want to do a good job at work. And I think we all kind of assume good intent generally for other people at work. But it's hard. And one of those ways that we cope is through falling in line with the language we hear to be accepted.
Yes. Well, I mean, that's what I was saying. Like I see it, but yet I do it as well. Like so I'm not saying that I like, and it's hard to snap out of it or just remember that actually that you don't have to be that way. Back to what our original conversation around, you don't have to sort of inherit and then take on and then do the same thing. You can twist things around. You can be more curious. You can ask questions. You can challenge it, in baby steps. I've got you facilitate a lot of different sessions and workshops. Do you have like a favorite activity that you run or a question that you like to use during sessions that is your go-to?
A favorite activity to run. I mean, I am a massive fan of warm-ups because I use warm-ups whenever the gear of the workshop or the meeting needs to change. For example, how you can be in a mindset of divergent thinking. We need to create options, so we need to be creative, like an artist mindset. But then we need to switch mindset because now we're going to go into a phase of the meeting that is about convergent thinking. We need to remove choices. We create choice, make choice. And sometimes people need to really consciously switch. Like you can't stay in an artist mindset when we're trying to make choices now. You need an editor mindset. And so I tend to go for activities that really help people switch that mindset. But yeah, generally people need help in thinking more creatively. So I'm really big on that. Like that's a big interest of mine. How do we be more creative at work? And it's a really simple one. I just call it Spam Can. And you can find it on remotefriendlyicebreakers.com. The other book I did was 50 remote-friendly icebreakers. And one of them is, it's just called Spam Can, but you can use anything. The idea is you get the group of people and you can start off and you start with any inanimate object. I could just use this coffee mug, or I use a spam can just because it's funny, like an empty spam can. And it's like, tell me an alternate use for that. Doesn't have to make sense. Don't overthink it, go. And it's good if it's physical because you can pass it around, but it also works online. And people can throw to the next person and then they go around again and they know what order they're in. And there's lots of really cool dynamics that always happen. So I do that and then a few rounds and then we go from in it to on it. So I said, okay, what did you notice about the ideas we came up with and what that was like? And that's a big go-to activity for me because it's like it's like the whole workshop all in 2 minutes. Because people realize they go from performative creativity, like they come out with an idea to look smart or look cool, to then a point where they're kind of out of ideas. And then they have to exercise a 21st century skill, Leanne, called listening. And they have to listen to other people. And it's funny, people go, oh, I was so jammed for ideas. And they're trying to come up with an idea without listening to other people. But then when I tuned into what people were saying, Leanne came up with an idea and that gave me an idea. And so all these little pennies drop for people and that primes them really nicely to just work better together in the rest of the workshop. So I think that, Spam Can, or like alternate uses for an object.
I love that.
Yeah,
it's great because I know what you mean, the performative creativity, because the spotlight's on you. So then you're like, oh, it has to be really good. And you kind of forget that there's a light on everyone and then you can actually leverage the group to come up with your idea. That's awesome. And just getting that fluency of ideas out as well. I like that you brought up like having to have a gear change between like divergent thinking and then convergence. Like actually, it's like a scene change when you move to.
Yes. Yeah. That's a great way of putting it.
Yeah. So Ben, do you have any advice for first-time facilitators that are tuning in?
Oh, advice for first-time facilitators. I know I said before, be clear about what your role is and what your role is not. Like you don't own the outcome, they do. But something that really helped me, and I learned it the hard way, like a lot of these things, is call the game as a facilitator. And by that, what I mean, it's like, if you're ever watching sport and there's like a sports commentator, saying, oh, now Leanne has the ball and it's going to be interesting to see, oh, she's just gone and sold the candy and now she's gone around, call the game. And by that, I mean to say, folks, we're nearly coming up to halftime. Looking at the agenda, it looks like we're a bit behind. So what do we do to catch up? How would you like to play out the rest of the agenda to make sure we get to the end? So 2 things happened there. One, you made people aware of where they're all at. And then you gave them the wheel, of the car. And I love those times where, you make people, really aware that it's their hands on the wheel of the bus. They get to drive. So don't be afraid to call the game. And that's also nice when, those rabbit in the headlights moments as a facilitator.
Yes, I do.
Something's jammed and then everyone kind of looks to you as the facilitator and you're going, call the game and say, well, this is interesting. We're kind of jammed, aren't we? What are we jammed on? Or what's not being said? What do you want to do next? It's perfectly fine to kind of not play dumb, but again, just ask them questions about how they'd like to proceed.
Yeah, I love that. And one of my, just as a kid, I wanted to be a sports commentator growing up. So the fact that you've brought this in, it's like, maybe I am. I'm calling games as I deliver these workshops. Yeah. Ben, you shared so much in this episode. We've got a link to all your books and everything else. If any listener would love to contact you, reach out, find out more about creativity and talk corporate anthropology, where can we send them?
The easiest thing is my name, bencrothers.com.
That's very easy.
And so that way, yeah, like if you just want to pick my brains, or if you just want to contact me to sketch out some strategy or do some graphic recording at your event, or ask advice for a particular agenda that you got to put together for an offsite, or training, you want some training, that's the easiest thing. Just go to bencrothers.com. Otherwise, check out brightpilots.com. That's my business. So bright as in we want a brighter world. Pilots as in that's what facilitators are. You know, we take people from A to B, you know, and tell them to actually, no, we don't tell them to sit back and relax. They're not meant to sit back and relax. But yeah, like, so brightpilots.com, because I've got free resources on there to help facilitators. And there's other tips and things that I write about in the blog on there. And you can get a flavor for the services that I provide there. So bencrothers.com or brightpilots.com. Yeah.
Amazing. Link to both of those. And Ben, I'm sure we could talk for longer. We'll keep the conversation going. Thank you so much for being on the show and sharing all your insight. It's been tremendous having a chat.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for the opportunity. Enjoy the rest of your day.